I'll just hand it over to you to screen share.
Okay, sounds good.
There we go. Welcome, everybody. Good group today to join our mentorship meetup. So welcome. We'll just give it a couple more minutes to see who else joins us. And Madison, I have our standard slides. Are you going to walk through them if I do the screen, move the slides for you? Oh, maybe she's not here yet. She says she's still on mute. Oh, you know what? She's come through the as an attendee, but she can't unmute herself. Do you want to send her the other link? Lokesh?
I'll make her a presenter.
Okay. There we go. There she is.
Hello, everybody.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, Madison.
Of course. How are you guys?
Very well.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we have just about 55 minutes, so let's kick it off. Welcome, everybody. I'm Nancy Calder. I lead our mentorship meetup group. Madison is here from our Dynamics user group organization to walk us through some initial information for you about upcoming events and just who Doug is. And then Candyce is also here. She's the main event. Thank you, Candyce, for joining us. And then we'll be handing it over to here, and then I'll come back at the end to wrap us up. So Madison, over to you. Would you like me to go to the next slide?
Yes, please. Hello, everybody. My name is Madison Zolowitz. I am the event coordinator at Doug. So I work specifically with the Meetup program, helping all the local Meetup programs across the world. So if I can ever be of any support to you, please let me know. I would be happy to meet with you. So Doug, or Dynamics User Group, is a free community for users, implementers, and resellers of Microsoft business applications. We mainly work with Dynamics 365, GP, which unfortunately is no longer, and Power Platform community. We hope that people can come to these meetups to excel and grow in their personal and professional careers. Can go to the next slide, Nancy.
There we go.
Our rules of engagement essentially is that we just ask that these meetups be held as solely educational meetups. So please no sales pitches. We ask that we keep this solely focused around education and not sales. You can go to the next one. Dynamics User Group has multiple different programs. So we have a free online forum, we have conferences, webinars, lots of local meetups. We also have a YouTube channel where you can see other local meetups that record their sessions. So if you're ever interested in a speaker that spoke at a Denver meetup, they're almost always posted on YouTube if they are virtual meetups. So lots of great education available there.
And previous sessions from the mentorship group are also there. So yeah, please, please enjoy those sessions.
Yeah, definitely.
Next. There we go.
So we also have regional Doug meetups. These are a little bit larger in scope than your local meetups, and they are fully in person. We have two coming up at the end of 2024. Our Southeast Regional will be held in Tampa, Florida on October 29th. Fingers crossed that this happens. They have a really awful hurricane heading towards them now. So I know we're just hoping that everybody stays safe. A lot of our leaders that are working on that are evacuating now and hoping that the venue is intact come October 29th. So everything is booked, and hopefully that will go as planned. We also have our Canadian regional meetup coming up on November 26th. We are confirming the venue now, but almost positive that it will be November 26th. And Nancy has been helping a lot with that. So super excited. It's going to be an awesome day of different education sessions. And we have our 2025 DynamicsCon coming up from May 13th to the 16th in Chicago. So session submissions are open now. This is a multi-day event in person in Chicago with lots of different educational sessions, networking, anything that you can think of. So it's a very big conference and we are super excited to host it in Chicago this year.
And submission, when does the deadline close? Or for submissions, do you know?
I do not know it off the top of my head, but
So-
I will find it and send it in the chat for you.
Okay, perfect.
I think it's next month, but it'd be good to confirm.
Yeah, I'll send the exact date in the chat. So the agenda is about to be announced for DynamicsCon Virtual, which is coming up on November 13th, 2024. This is a free event, and the sessions are chosen by the community. We typically have about 5,000 or more community members join. Again, a full day of education sessions with all of the products listed below. And we are super excited. It's a great way to gain some education and do some networking in the community.
Cool. Looking forward to it. Thanks so
Yes,
much,
definitely.
Madison. So we're going to hand it off here in a minute to Candice. We really appreciate her being here today. Quite the LinkedIn guru. I've had the opportunity to see her speak at the DynamicsCon event that we just had in Denver. So really looking forward. And it's part of our overall mentorship program. We have a mentor here with us. We have some of our committee members here with us today. So let's come back and talk more about the mentorship program after Candice shares what she's going to share for content with us today. So over to you, Candice, if you'd like to take over the screen share.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thanks,
inviting
Candice.
me.
Good to have you.
I seem to be getting an echo. Are you guys hearing that? Oh, now it went away.
Nope.
Okay. Okay, cool. I just wonder in chat if you guys would let me know, like, how long have you been in the community? How long have you been in the Microsoft community and how long in Doug? Love to just get kind of acquainted with what also, tell me a little bit about whether you're using LinkedIn right now or not. And we'll try, since it's a small group, I'll try to make this as much a conversation as a presentation. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for everybody to share, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Nancy, I probably won't be able to see the chat as much when my screen sharing is happening. So could
I
you
can watch for you. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm actually happy to be interrupted. I do this content a lot, and so you're not going to throw me off my game if you interrupt me. So if a comment or a question comes in that seems relevant, would you just do that? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, let me see here. I'm going to share my entire screen. That'll probably be easier.
So
Okay, so it looks like lots of people are pretty new to Dynamics and Doug, but been on LinkedIn for a while or just starting to be. Okay, good. So let's see here. Can you see my screen?
we see ourselves at the moment, but it looks like it's in behind. There we go. That's it.
Good. All right, awesome.
Yep.
I don't use Teams very often. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to go from invisible to influential. And for those of you who are early in your career, early in Dynamics, or if you've been around for a long time, this is going to be super relevant because it's important for us to build our presence on and to be known. Whoops, sorry about that. And so I want to just make sure that we're looking at ways that you can build a personal professional brand on LinkedIn, because having that professional brand, we talk about this idea of a personal brand, and I think we should talk about it as a professional brand more than as like a personal brand, even though it's to us, it's personal. I want to kind of clarify that we're not talking about, sharing pictures of your kids and building like that kind of influencer thing with being a mom or something. Not that that's not important, but when I'm talking about this on LinkedIn and building your professional brand, I'm talking more about attracting the audience that you need. For some of you, that's going to be an audience of customers because you may be a consultant or some sort of a specialist in your organization, or maybe you're in sales and marketing. And in all of those cases, it's important that the audience of customers trusts you. It also goes a long way toward helping you to build an audience of future employers. So this is a long-term game, not a short-term game. And so I want to make sure that you're thinking about it from the long term of your whole career, not just the short term of whatever your current situation is. So from a marketing and business development perspective, but I think also from the perspective of applying for jobs too, we have a big problem and it's getting bigger all the time. And I'm going to call that problem attention deficit. Now, I'm not talking about ADHD. I'm talking about the attention of our target audience because we're being inundated. All of us and the people that you're trying to attract especially are being inundated with content. Over 3 million emails are sent every second, and about 67% are spam or more in my inbox. There are over 4,000 advertising messages that the average person is exposed to every day. And we've gotten pretty good at getting blind to that, but we are being just pummeled with advertisements and marketing messages. And then spam calls inundate our phones. I don't know about you, but this is on silent and I don't answer unknown calls because they're almost always a spammy robocall. And I just don't have time for that in my day. And I think that a lot of people are the same way. In fact, most of us have gotten really, really good at blocking this type of input, which means that it's really difficult to reach our message, our customers or our target audience, whether that's a customer, a partner, or a future employer. We're really, really good at ignoring these messages. And that's what I mean by attention deficit, is that it's really hard to capture the attention of our audience. It used to be, back when I first started my first business, that you would use the yellow pages to advertise. I mean, many of you probably don't even know what this is anymore because it's gone. But it used to be that you would put your ad here and people would look you up and they would find your services and call you. And that was what it took to market. Then along came the internet and all of the different search engines, and this is what happened to the yellow pages. They just barely exist anymore. And when they do, I don't even, like if I get one, it's really small instead of the big books that it used to be. So now along comes ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude and all of and Copilot. And I think that AI is about to do to Google what Google did to the yellow pages. In fact, I just saw a note yesterday that Google's domination has dropped to like 50% when it used to be like 95%, because people are putting ads in different places trying to reach the audience. Google's reach and dominance is starting to decline. But that means that the way we reach our audience is also changing dramatically. Because what worked in 2000 didn't work in 2010. 2000, we were still putting ads in the yellow pages. 2010, that didn't exist anymore. What worked in 2013 didn't work last year. And I don't think that what's working this year is going to work next year. I just heard yesterday also that Perplexity is going to start selling ads. So it's going to be a really different world for us to get known in. And we've got to figure out ways to work around that. I look at the cost of the attention economy. So the green bar here, and this is not scientific, okay, I just made up this chart, but it gives you a sense of, it's like the green bar is like our existing available attention supply, which doesn't increase. Then the blue bar is kind of the supply of content, and it is just skyrocketing now. And then that means that the cost to acquire attention gets more expensive. And our job usually is to capture attention. If we're trying to grow a business, we have to get the attention of customers. If we're trying to find a job, we have to get the attention of future employers. If we're trying to attract partners, we have to attract their attention. And that is getting just harder and harder to do. Now, a bit about my background. I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I co-founded 2 financial technology companies. So we were doing electronic trading in the securities industry. And when the second one, the first one was pretty successful. We brought that up to the Deloitte & Touche Fast 50 list in 2004, sold that to investors, started Cascade with the same partners. And then I left that in 2007. It didn't do well, and started Propel Growth in 2007. And early on, I was targeting the same companies that were really competitors of these 2 businesses. And I'd built a name and a brand. And so for like 10 years, I didn't have to do any outbound. We did inbound marketing, content marketing, and referrals. And I didn't really have to do hardly any outbound. Well, and I didn't make a sales call for 10 years, outbound sales call. But that all kind of crashed and burned when we decided to pivot the company to a new industry. And so I turned to LinkedIn to build my business after we pivoted away from the financial services space. And that has been really, really remarkable. The big reason is because LinkedIn has become such a dominant player. When I first got started on LinkedIn, I think it was in 2008 that I joined LinkedIn. It was really a repository for resumes, but it's very, very vastly different from that today. There's over 1 billion members, and a lot of them are very senior. And you'll find that very senior people tend to be active on LinkedIn also. In fact, 80% of LinkedIn users have a role in driving business decisions on LinkedIn. And 48% of users log in monthly, 16% log in daily, according to LinkedIn. But here's the kicker, and this is what I really want you to take home, is only 3 million users, that's 0.3%, you guys, are posting regularly on LinkedIn. And most of them don't do it well because they're still treating LinkedIn like an advertising vehicle rather than a vehicle to share. But really, what LinkedIn is today is a community. It's a place where people go to discover new ideas, new ways of thinking, to network with peers, to create conversation and community. And so we have to treat LinkedIn differently than it was back when it was a resume repository. One of the key things that LinkedIn enables us to do is build trust with our target audience and to build that personal brand. So it may not be something that you think about regularly. In fact, drop in the chat, and Nancy, you can kind of give me a sense of what they're saying because I can't see it. But like, how many of you ever think about your personal brand?
Daily, quite often, all the
Ooh,
time, daily.
good.
That's why they're here, right?
Awesome. Oh man, I am so delighted.
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Well, there was
So,
one not too much, often, quite often.
super. All
Yeah.
right, you guys, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for thinking that way. I love this quote from Jeff Bezos. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And so what we have to do is to build that brand, and to build what people say is to start sharing and storytelling to build the personal brand. And we have to be a voice, not an echo. I see so many people, especially in the Dynamics community, that tend to just repost what the company is posting rather than being a unique voice in the market. So as you're building your personal brand, we have to be a voice, not an echo. And that helps us attract attention. I'm so delighted to hear that some of you guys are thinking about this. This is awesome. All right, so I have an agenda here that we're going to go through, a framework for success on LinkedIn, how to build credibility and trust, and then how to build your audience and maximize your visibility. Okay, this is my framework. So I look at LinkedIn as kind of a three-legged stool. There's credibility, visibility, and relationships. Credibility is that headshot, headline, everything that's on your profile. Visibility is the content that you're posting and your commenting strategy, the way that you're building visibility. And then relationships are your network, the people that you're connected with, sending invitations to connect, getting conversations going on DM. We're going to talk about these things in this session today. Okay, if you want a copy of that algorithm, if you stick around, I'll share a link where you can download that for free. Okay, let's talk about building credibility and trust. So unless you are job hunting, your profile is not your resume. Now, if you've got it up as a resume right now, just copy what's in there and drop it into a Word document or something so that you've got it, because I'm going to encourage you to change your profile dramatically. By the way, if you go to propelgrowth.com, you'll find our blog. I just posted a blog article this week on a new way to rewrite your about section using the interviews and engagement with your clients and testimonials from clients. So it's just kind of a different way to approach it, but I'm going to show you some other ways too. So the first thing that you have to start thinking about when you're writing your profile is, who are you targeting? Now, you might be targeting a future employer. Maybe you're targeting partners because your job is to recruit partners for the business. Maybe you're trying to recruit customers. Maybe you're looking for investors. Whatever it is, and you may be targeting multiple of these avatars. So I just want you to be thinking about who it is that you're trying to target, because you need to speak directly to them in your profile. There's a lot of elements that go into a strong profile, and I don't want you to overlook these. There's so many different things. Like, very few people use the header graphic effectively. And then your headline, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, but each part of that, your about section, the summary here is the about section. All of these pieces are really important and should speak to your target audience. But your headline is the most important part of your profile. It's like an ad that shows up everywhere. Next to your activity, it shows up every time you post. It shows up every time you comment on a post. Did you know it even shows up in Google search results if somebody Googles your name? So your headline is super, super important. The goal for your headline is to attract your ideal connections and filter out people who are not a good fit. Like, these are some ineffective headlines. I'm sure that you've seen many of these on LinkedIn. It's like, okay, helping service-based businesses. All right, we're all in the Dynamics community. We are all service-based businesses. What the heck does that mean? Is it my dog walker or Dynamics implementation team? Like, I don't know. To client development at CLS is equally meaningless. So we want to look for something that will communicate to your target audience, that will show the benefits, the value that you bring to the table. So here's a couple of examples. Improving cash flow visibility for process manufacturers. Here, the who is assumed. It's going to be people who are interested in looking at cash flow and work at process manufacturers. Or data you can trust to manage your supply chain. Again, the who is assumed. It's people who are interested in data around supply chain. But those are both short enough that they show up. You can do a longer profile, like this one is somebody in the Dynamics community, and he's talking about promoting the responsible use of AI to make your sales team more effective, your sales process repeatable, and your business more predictable. Hashtag get CRM right. So you have, I think, 200 characters in your headline, but only a portion of it shows up. So just that first line shows up when he posts, and probably even less than that when he comments. But it gets enough of the important stuff out there. But what I would think might improve this would be if he could front load a little bit more of this, responsible use of AI for your sales team or something like that, to just push up a little bit of the important stuff. I think also predictability in a business is an important part of his value proposition. So it could be reversed a little bit. The goal of your headline is to not to sell for you, but to attract the attention of your target audience and make them curious enough that they're going to go click the picture, your headshot, to see more about you, to go look at your profile. So I have a free workbook. If you stick to the end, I'll give you a link to go download that, where it gives you a guide and framework and templates and examples on how to compose a meaningful headline so that you can redo yours. Then your profile summary is next, and it should speak directly to your target audience. So remember those 4 avatars that we were talking about. You need to think about who it is that you're trying to speak to. And then when you're writing your profile summary, think of as if you're talking to them, that they're sitting in front of you, or maybe they're looking over your shoulder as you're typing it and you're writing it to them. I find that I get a lot more human in my writing if I picture myself writing to a specific person instead of to a broad audience. Here are 2 structural suggestions that you might use for your about section. What I do, who I do it for, how it helps, outcomes for clients and how to contact me, or what I do, why it matters, why it works, and what others say. Now, you don't need to limit yourself to these 2 options, but if you're struggling to find a way to articulate your about section, these might work. In that blog that I recently published, I talk about a client of mine who has some really strong client testimonials on his website. And for him, I suggested that he grab those testimonials, put them in a document, record himself talking about the stories behind each of those, the projects, and then use AI. And I actually, in that blog post, I even give the prompt that I would use to dig into all of that content and write that about section. So lots of ways to approach this. Now, one really, really important thing that I don't want you to overlook is the importance of the hook. So the first 2 lines in your profile about section are the most important, because you've got to get the prospect or the visitor to click read more in order to see the rest of your about section. So you have to hook them there. And then you have to kind of continue hooking them, or they're just going to move on. So I recommend kind of a modified inverted pyramid format. You want to get really important stuff up front, but also if you break it up into headings and use all caps and white space to create room in there for people's eyes to scan your content, please do not use special fonts. LinkedIn does not support rich text formatting yet, or HTML in your about section or in your posts. And so you'll see that people are doing that. And what that actually is Unicode behind it. So if someone has any level of vision impairment, they might be they might be dyslexic. There's a huge percentage of our population that's dyslexic, or they might have other vision impairments where they cannot read your about section and they're using screen readers. If you use those special fonts, those people using screen readers cannot read your content. And so we just really need to be working on accessibility overall. And that's one way you can do it, is by using all caps to delineate headings instead of special fonts. But going back to organizing this, most people tend to scan, and they look, they'll kind of scan your headlines, and then they'll go back and read sections that are interesting to them. So each headline becomes its own hook. Another reason why you want that to be accessible, because the screen readers won't read the most important part of your content. Okay, so now let's talk about how to build your audience, because that's a critical part of this. The first thing is to set your goals. So I want you to study this list and think about what your personal goals are. Maybe it's to become known for something, or to build your personal brand. Maybe you're shooting for MVP status, so you're looking to advance knowledge in your industry. Maybe you're trying to grow your network and relationships, use it for inbound or outbound sales, to get speaking opportunities, to just grow your career and find your next opportunity. Whatever those goals are, I want you to spend a minute and write down what your top 2 goals are. Why don't you write at least one of those in chat? And Nancy, if you want to read them out.
Can do, for sure.
I'll show that screen again so you guys can see it.
Here we go. Networking.
Okay.
Attracting inbound leads.
Yes.
more coming. Just see the little dots going.
The dots. I love it.
Yeah.
Good. It's an opportunity to have some coffee.
Inbound leads, speaker opportunities, client acquisition, next career opportunity. Yeah, everybody's jumping in.
Great. Okay.
Some
So
common
I will
themes,
keep.
eh? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep this focused then on that inbound opportunities and
Grow network
speaking.
and relationships. Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah. The network is so important.
Networking,
Okay.
speaking opportunities. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Nancy. Okay. So the first thing you have to start with is strategy. Now you've got that goal jotted down. What the next thing is, who do you want to influence? And think about, from the perspective of who you want to influence, what topics are they interested in, and what topics interest you, and where is that intersection? Because if you're not interested in the topic, it's going to be really hard to consistently write about it. But if you have an interest in it and your prospect is interested, you can start to share more content around that, and that helps you attract those inbound leads. But it also supports the networking goal, the opportunity to find new career opportunities, and it affects your ability to get speaking engagements, because you're going to get out there and you're going to share thought leadership and become a thought leader on LinkedIn. So that's the goal here, is to get your ideas out there and start conversations with them. Let's talk about LinkedIn lurkers. So an interesting challenge on LinkedIn is that most people don't engage. What's fascinating is that even in my audience, and I'm training people on how to use LinkedIn, you would think that those people would be more likely to comment and engage on my posts than the average person. But even me, most of my customers do not engage with my posts before they buy something from us. And so what you'll find is that this is true for most people. Your lurkers are where your most important audience is. So a story about that. This was years ago. I was at a conference back when we were still targeting the financial technology industry. And I met the chief marketing officer at Fidelity. And we exchanged cards and chatted. And most importantly, we connected on LinkedIn. So there was an opportunity at Fidelity, and we went in and pitched, and we got pretty far down the path. In fact, they came down to us and I think one other vendor, and they asked for some revisions to our proposal and things like that. And so I got that over to them, and this had been a fairly lengthy sales process, and they just ghosted me. They just went dark, and I to this day, I don't know what happened. But I followed up for like 6 months because it would have been a really good deal, and just nothing. So eventually I gave up and went on my merry way. Now, I'm embarrassed to say, as a marketing company, we didn't have lead nurturing going on. So I wasn't emailing Leslie or her team for 4 years. And then I run into her again at a conference, and we're like, hey, how's it going? And she greets me and she's so enthusiastic. And I mentioned that it's been like 4 years, and she looks at me kind of quizzically, like, what, 4 years? And I'm like, yeah, it was back in whatever. I don't remember what year it was, but and she says, I feel like I'm in touch with you every week. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I wasn't emailing her. Well, she was following me on LinkedIn. Leslie was a lurker. And that's what taught me that we have to nurture our lurkers on LinkedIn, because these are our most important audience. So even though you may not see a ton of reach on things or a ton of engagement, your lurkers are watching. And so I want to show you how to get engagement and build an audience so that your lurkers discover you. And the key to this is being human on LinkedIn. So here is a crazy simple hack to help you with engaging on LinkedIn and building that audience. Did you know that your commenting strategy is as important as your posting strategy on LinkedIn? It's really interesting. Commenting builds your visibility. If you consistently post 10 quality comments a day for a month, you'll see a 40% increase in people viewing your profile, 20% increase in engagement in your content, and a 20% growth in follower count. It has been amazing for me when I'm really intentional about commenting every day. It also boosts post reach. So the algorithm favors vibrant community conversation and community. So every time a post gets a reaction or a comment, that increases the algorithm's decision to spread that content wider. A comment will typically deliver about a 5% boost in the posters network and a 2.8% boost of that post in the commenters network. So, like if Nancy comments on my post and you're connected to Nancy but not to me, you'll likely see my post in your feed that says Nancy commented. And then her comment will be the first comment you see. So by Nancy commenting on my content, you're more likely to see Nancy, which also helps her build her own presence and visibility on LinkedIn. So what's interesting is that when you comment, you're doing yourself a favor, and at the same time, with the same effort, you're doing the poster a favor. And most people who post regularly on LinkedIn know that. So it's like a little kind of a point in your on the scoreboard of life. You get a point for helping somebody out. So the
Well,
advantages of
thank you for commenting on the post I did for this session.
thank you for posting about it.
Yeah.
So to your point there, like I commented and I was doing that intentionally to try to lift that post so that it would get more views. So the advantages to you of commenting on other people's posts is visibility and credibility. What's interesting is, so like I said, if Nancy comments on mine, you're going to see the fact that she commented first. So that builds Nancy's visibility as well as my visibility. But it also boosts your credibility if you're picking the right people to post on or to comment on. It's a little bit of their credibility rubs off on you, especially if you can post an intelligent comment in that. So that kind of helps in just building your own brand. And then there's a culture of reciprocity on LinkedIn also, where if you're consistently commenting on people's posts, it's more likely that they will come and check you out, or that the algorithm might put your post in their feed. And because they know your name, they know that you're commenting regularly, they're more likely to go comment on yours. So the reciprocity culture it's not tit for tat, one for one, but there is that culture on LinkedIn, which is really nice, completely different than Twitter and some other places where it's more competitive. And this is really important. People who comment consistently attract more leads. And that happens to me all the time. I'll have people reach out to me and say, hey, I saw your comment on so-and-so. Can we talk about what you do? Probably get leads like that 2 or 3 times a week. So there's a strategy behind this, though. It's not just dropping comments randomly on what the algorithm feeds you in your feed. You have to be really intentional about going and finding your influencers. So I look at influencers as people, I'm not talking Kim Kardashian here. I'm talking about the people that your target audience engages with. They're people who serve the same market as you, but maybe in a tangential offer. So if you're a VAR, maybe it's some of the ISVs or other non-competing VARs, for example. Might be Microsoft people that you're commenting on, where they have more visibility than you do. They serve the same market. Sometimes people who are speaking at conferences can be a really good place to find these influencers too. So if your customers are consistently going to the Doug conferences, for example, then it might be worthwhile to look at who's speaking at those conferences around the products and tools that you consistently work with and engage with their content.
So
Now,
question,
yeah.
Candice, before you go on. We have a comment/question. I noticed that when I started commenting on people, it's those people's posts that keep showing up on my feed the following days. So I end up
Yes.
commenting on the same people's posts all the time. Does that hurt my exposure? Should I always be commenting on new people?
I think it's a both and. It's a really, really, really good question. So thank you for posing it. The algorithm is going to feed you things based on what it sees you interested in. So when you're liking and reacting and commenting on people's posts, then the algorithm's like, okay, Nancy likes this, so I'll feed Nancy more. So there's that's going on, but also I think that we need to be intentional about finding them. So I'm going to give you in a couple minutes here a QR code where you can register to get those free assets, and you'll get a couple emails from me. And in that, it's either the first or the second email, there's a link to a video that I did on how to create a saved search. And I have found that to be really effective, where I will find my influencers, create a saved search so that I can go back to the influencers that I really want to engage with, even if the algorithm is not putting them in my feed. So it's kind of like I can create my own custom feed that way. So you do want to be intentional about it. And so if that person that you see all the time, like I see a lot of posts from Dan Aldridge, or I did, and now it's kind of trimmed those back. So I have to go intentionally find posts from Dan Aldridge, because Dan is a good influencer for my target audience. And so I want to engage with his content because it attracts people for me. Similarly, posts coming out of Dynamics User Group, Summit, and things like that are also helpful. So it's the influencers who attract your target audience. And the more we engage with them, the more visible you become to your target audience. Now, a lot of people will talk about following influencers with huge followings. I actually don't recommend that, because if you, like Seth Godin, for example, has like a massive following, or Adam Grant, I can comment on their stuff, but where they have hundreds of comments, my comment is going to very quickly get buried. If you look for an influencer that has like 10 to 20,000 followers, and gets 20 to 30 comments on a post, when people see that post, they're more likely to scroll through all of the comments after they read the post, and your comment will show up. If there's hundreds of comments, the likelihood that they see your comment is lower than if there's 20 or 30 comments. So that's what I recommend in terms of selecting influencers, is to look intentionally for people that get that level of engagement. And then engage with them. So you want to read the comments before you comment on a post. Funny story about that. I am not afraid of debate on LinkedIn. In fact, I think debate is healthy. It can bring new color to topics. So there are many times when I will take a contra point of view on a post. But you have to be intentional about that and think it through. There was a guy on LinkedIn, a self-defined influencer, who was talking about using automation on LinkedIn for outbound. And if you follow me at all, you know I'm like super anti-bot, I don't think you can automate a relationship with another human being, and we need to stop trying. So I was going to jump on and comment about that and say that. But I paused and I read through the comments before I did that. And every single comment on this guy's post was, "Oh, you're so right, Joe. I love everything you say. And it's such an insightful point. And I totally agree with you." Every single one of them. And I'm like, oh, Lord, these are a bunch of sycophants. And if I comment to contradict this person, they're all going to pile on me. And well, I'm not afraid of picking a fight with these people. I really don't have time for it. So I just moved on and ignored that post. So I would be intentional about that. And then don't hijack the conversation. So I've had people do this in my posts, where I'll post about something and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're doing the same thing. Here's a link to our website where you can see our offer about that." And I'm like, dude, that was so rude. So don't hijack the conversation, but add to it. It is fine to engage with a competitor's post. I think that a rising tide lifts all boats, and you'll see me and other LinkedIn trainers commenting on each other's posts all the time. And that's because we're all like building visibility and building credibility with each other. And that rising tide has helped everybody's business. So you'll see a lot of us collaborating. And I think that the same is true in the Dynamics community. You can collaborate, and that rising tide lifts all of our boats. So another thing that you can think about in commenting is to reply to other comments and create like a threaded conversation. that can get like more and more dialogue going and can be quite helpful to the post, but also to your visibility, because people, lurkers, will see that conversation and read that conversation. So don't be afraid to get into dialogue with the commenters. And then I also recommend that you send connection requests to the commenters and mention their comment to build your network, because every time you add a new connection, it builds your visibility too. But no empty engagement. You'll see a lot of things like this. And frankly, some posts don't give you any room to do anything else but this. But comments that are less than 5 words don't do anything with the algorithm. So you need to have something, a comment with meat. All right, so then let's talk about how to maximize visibility for your posting. So with your posting strategy, actually, Nancy, are there any questions before I jump here?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, great. So consistency is key. And you guys, we are going to have some time for Q&A. So if you want to start putting in some questions, I'm almost done. And so we can just kind of have a conversation as soon as I finish this section. So, all right, so posting strategy, consistency is key. We want to build trust and credibility over time with our audience and train the algorithm. So if you decide that you're going to post 2 or 3 times a week, post every week 2 or 3 times, and be consistent about the day of the week and the time of day. That helps train the algorithm and it knows what to expect from you. I have found that between 8 and 11 a.m. in my target audience's time zone tends to do better. However, I don't know if you saw my post with my husband, Phil Donaldson, last week. He was running behind and he wanted to be consistent about getting a post done. And he wasn't done until I think it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he just posted it. And I said, I really think you should take that down and wait until tomorrow. And he's like, no, I'm going to post it now because I want to be consistent. I'm like, all right, you're going to kill your audience. So we're having this discussion internally and he posts it. I immediately saw it in my feed, which I rarely see Phil's posts in my feed. Weird, I know, but LinkedIn doesn't think I like him. I actually do. So I dropped a comment on his post and then he got like 3 other comments like right away. And it's funny because that post is actually turned out to be in the last 28 days, it's his 3rd top post and it's only a few days old now. So it'll probably become his top post soon. So then I posted and said, I just lost an argument with Phil Donaldson, or settled an argument. I can't remember how I opened it, but I opened it with a nice hook. And that was like 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon that I posted that. And that post has gone wild too. So it's been hilarious. It's been a lot of fun to create this little argument on LinkedIn and just enjoy ourselves on LinkedIn and show a little personality. But also it's disproving this a little bit. So I'd rather see you be consistent than perfect about time. But if you can get ahead of it, I have been scheduling my posts for around 8:30 in the morning, my time, and that seems to be increasing the engagement on the post. So this is a really important slide. And this is how much time people are spending on LinkedIn. So the average user is on mobile, so we need to optimize for mobile first. If you're doing a document post, don't do something that's going to be hard to read on a mobile phone. The average session is 1.3 minutes. They're looking at an average of 14 posts in that minute, meaning an average of 7 seconds per post. Desktop is a little bit longer, but it's only 35% of our audience. So it's really important that you optimize for a very brief visit and think about your hook. Things that you want to post about would be maybe questions that you get from prospects a lot, stories about current client projects. You don't have to disclose anything confidential to talk about a problem that a client is dealing with and how to solve it. Myth busting can be super effective on LinkedIn. You want to be customer centric and focus on educating, on helping them see new conversations, or I'm sorry, new perspectives. And most importantly, you want to start conversations because you want to get comments on your post just like you're adding comments on other posts. So what I would recommend is that you put together a posting plan with 10 questions the prospects ask, 10 questions you wish they would ask, and 5 ways that they can prepare for success. That'll give you 25 posts, but I'm betting that on each of those questions, because a post needs to be pretty short, 900 to 1200 characters is optimal for a text post. So probably you can answer one of those questions over 3 or 4 posts. This will help you get a little bit of traction and get ahead, and then you can continue to add to this list over time. Remember, though, that a call to action, so it used to be that LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, you would create an image and do some sort of a promotional hook to try to get people to go click a link and go to your website to read this article. The problem goes back to 2 things. One is LinkedIn really wants to keep people on LinkedIn, so we see the ads. And they have a very real business purpose of trying to keep us on LinkedIn. But also remember the short visit. So I think there's just as much of a human impact, but links do not perform well on LinkedIn. You will find that anytime you include a link to something off-site, or even a link to a lengthy article on LinkedIn, you're going to see less traction on that because people don't have time to go read your article. So instead of a CTA or call to action, I want you to be thinking CTC or call to conversation. Because when you can incorporate a call to conversation and get dialogue going, that will help your post get more lift. So these are some mistakes that I see commonly. The biggest one is that the post inhibits discussion. Maybe it's trying to send people off site. Maybe it's super promotional and there's nothing you can say except great post. It's real pitchy. It's often difficult to respond to something that's a total sales pitch. And then there are people that write at too high a level. So I've got one person in my accelerator right now who is a PhD, and he does this like really high-end service that is super important and valuable, but it's very hard to explain in layman's terms. And so he writes these long posts that look like a wall of text. Remember, most people are spending 7 seconds on their phone reading that. And so we want to break up the content, make it really easy to engage with. And I also recommend writing no higher than an 8th grade reading level. You want to make posts easy for people to read and consume and engage with. And just don't be the megaphone that's just trying to promote on LinkedIn, because it doesn't work and people just scroll on by and your post won't get any engagement. Then the algorithm says, oh, this post isn't something people want to hear. And so it doesn't share your post with people. This is a bunch of examples. Now, I didn't hide these posters, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad here, but I want you to look. I'm going to show you a bunch of these, and I want you to just look down here at the kind of engagement that they've gotten. And the reason that they didn't get engagement is because every one of these posts was promoting offsite content, and it's just hard to engage with it because what are you going to say? And this one, even though it got 10 likes, I looked at that. It was all in the company. So we need to be doing things where people can engage and have first we have to stop the scroll. So if you look at this, they're both broken and not broken until the doors open. I'm curious. I want to see what he's got to say. So I'm more likely to click see more on this. And if you look, he got quite a bit of engagement on it too. So you want to stop the scroll and draw people into conversation. And to do that, you have to get them to click see more. So just like we talked about the hook in your about section, the hook in your post is really important. He has 3 lines here. And if it's on mobile, he only has 2 lines. So you don't have much space to hook them with that content to get them to stop the scroll and click to see more. So to write a strong hook, you got to get their attention in 40 to 49 characters. And these are some options. You can ask a question, tell an anecdote, a controversial statement, statistics, quotations. lots of ways to write a hook. In fact, this is where AI, I find, can be pretty helpful. I will feed it my post and say, I need a strong hook where people can only see the first 2 lines of this. They will want to see more, and they'll read on. And it will do a pretty good job of that. You have to kind of prompt it, because it'll say, you know, click see more to read more. So you do have to ask it for hooks, but it's getting better at that. So I think if you just play around with it, you'll be able to get better hooks from it. And don't just regurgitate other people's content. Don't just regurgitate marketing content. You need to have your own point of view and bring it. Even if you're going to reshare something from marketing, share it with your point of view on it and try to start a conversation rather than just clicking repost. And remember, instead of CTA, always think CTC, call to conversation. Excuse me, easy for me to say. And then build your network. So connect with those commenters. Every time somebody comments on your post, you should reply to it. Never leave a comment unreplied to, because that's just kind of rude. It's as if somebody comes over to your house and they comment on your beautiful decor and you don't say anything. At least say thank you, you know? So you want to connect with them also and thank them publicly by replying to their comment, but also send a connection request to them and say, hey, thanks for the comment. I really appreciate that. And ask a question, get dialogue going there. Every connection increases your visibility to that connection's target market. So you want to be strategic also about who you're connecting with. All right, so I have a couple of things for you here. Keys to remember are, unless you're job hunting, your profile is not your resume. Remember that you're nurturing your lurkers just as much as your commenters. Comment consistently, engage your influencers, write strong hooks on your posts, and instead of CTA, think CTC. Those would be the keys that I hope you take away from this. Now, there is a lot more to master on LinkedIn. It's a challenging platform. There's a lot to it, and it's always changing. And to build your brand, I look at things like, you know, we need to be doing engagement storytelling and content creation, thought leadership, community building. All of these different things play a role. You can figure this out. There's a lot of content out there on how to maximize your visibility on LinkedIn. But if you want some help, I have a 30-day LinkedIn posting challenge that's coming up next month. We just finished one, and it has been just a blast, because one of the things that we do, these are the areas, the orange, that we work on in the posting challenge. But one of the things we do is help each individual member of the posting challenge work on posts, and we give feedback and we workshop the posts before you put them up. And then everybody kind of comes in and helps engage with each other's posts also. So it's a challenge that helps you to figure this out and crack your code on how to identify your audience and your influencers, figure out how to get the right engagement going and leverage the algorithm and create demand. So we meet twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 o'clock Denver time, which is noon Eastern time. And on Tuesdays, I'll be training on these topics. And then on Thursdays, we actually do open Q&A, and it's a 90-minute meeting, because we're actually pulling up posts and spending 10 minutes as a group on each post to try to help everybody in the group get ready to have their posts out there that are going to get more engagement. And then I also send you LinkedIn tips each day with a posting prompt, and there's an online community where you can get feedback too. So if that's something you're interested in, I'm giving you guys a coupon code for that. If you'd like to join, there's a QR code, and I will also share a link in chat in a minute here. But the coupon code is challenge for that, all caps. And then I promised you those tools. So this is the QR code to those free tools. If you want to get that framework that I showed you, and that free workbook on how to compose a meaningful headline. So I can show those QR codes again, but that's it. And I am open for questions.
All right, everyone. It looks like we have a few questions. let's see. Let's take a look at what is the impact of having your article rewritten or summarized by an AI before posting?
Oh, good question. I'm gonna also, here's that link to that QR code. Oh, I can't put a chat in there. I'll just bring that, I'll share that QR code again because I don't seem to be able to chat. In terms of, wait, ask the question again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So it is, what is the impact of having your article rewritten or summarized by an AI before posting?
Thank you. Sorry about that. I do that often because it allows me to get to the meat of that content. I'm going to show this. That's got the free LinkedIn tips, and there's the posting challenge. So if anybody wants any of those QR
Yeah.
codes, I often will ask AI to simplify my language because I tend to write long sentences. And so that helps me um, to get it to write it in a more engaging way. And I will prompt it to help with the call to conversation. That said, I also tell it that I want it to precisely mimic my voice, writing style, and language choice and tone, because otherwise it's going to get into the whole AI sounding over enthusiastic, trying to create emotion when it doesn't understand what emotion is. And that just comes off as very insincere, and people tend to scroll on by. So I do strongly recommend that you humanize after you get AI to help you shorten.
Okay, great. All right, let's do one more. I know we're kind of over time, so why
Yeah,
do
sorry.
similar posts on LinkedIn have vastly different reach, such as one reaching 20,000 people on a Sunday morning and a similar one reaching only 1,500 the next Sunday at the same time?
The algorithm is pretty unpredictable, and I am hearing from a lot of the bigger influencers that reach is declining for them. I'm a smaller influencer, and reach is actually increasing for me. So individual results vary on LinkedIn, but a lot of times the difference has a lot to do with who engages in the first 60 minutes of that post. So if it's a similar post, and let's assume that both of them have really good, strong hooks and a strong call to conversation, and it's engaging content, we're going to assume that they're equal on those sides. Then in the kind of engagement that one post gets over another really, really matters. If it's a strong influencer and you get a lot of comments on one, then that's going to get vastly more reach than the one that didn't get engagement. But most of the time, if you analyze those two posts, you'll figure out that the post that didn't do as well isn't as engaging. It's not as easy to have a conversation. It's not as provocative to get a conversation and dialogue going. Or it might be that the algorithm is favoring. So right now, LinkedIn is always trying to promote Recruiter and promote the features that it makes money on. And so when people report that they just found a new job, that tends to get a big lift on LinkedIn just because the algorithm favors that kind of content. So I wouldn't compare I got a new job to here's how to use this specific feature in Dynamics, because they're not going to
Okay,
have the same kind of performance.
great. All right. Well, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to
Mhm.
Candice outside of this. And thank you, Candice. We appreciate it. Um, and I think that's
Thanks for
it for
having me.
today. Yep.
I hope
Have a good
everybody
day,
got
everyone.